how did you come across Birmingham Conservatoire? And yeah, so because you studied there, didn't you? And it'd
Mhm.
be really interesting to learn about how you came across that, what things you were considering when you applied, and what that felt like to be the,
Yes.
the first and only musician, let's say, in your family
Mm.
to go undertake that journey.
Yeah, of course. So, well, I first knew I wanted to go to conservatoire quite young. I mean, that was sort of around when I was about 12 years old. Well, sort of when I got into year seven, so my first year at secondary school. Um, but back then, I remember just Googling music schools in the UK because I'd never heard of any of them. And the first ones to come up are sort of your Royal Academy and your Royal College of Music. So for a while, that's where I wanted to go because that was sort of like, it was sort of looked at as the Eton of conservatoires. And then when I turned 16, I'd sort of been advised that, if you're really serious about going to conservatoire, whichever one you decide to go to, um, you should try and go to junior conservatoire. So I went to junior Guildhall for 2 years.
Mm.
Um, so I'd be there all day Saturday doing all sorts. And then when it came to audition time, I sort of told myself I'm going to audition for everywhere I can, unless I really don't want to go there in particular, but I'm going to audition everywhere. And when I started auditioning, I'd said to myself, I'd been to a few open days beforehand, and I'd said to myself, if I really want to go to music college in London, and I was sort of like, oh, everywhere else is just sort of a fail safe. I'll go there if I can't go to London. Um, and then I did my um, audition at a few places, not Birmingham at this point, but then I managed to get a consultation lesson with who was soon going to, well, who would then become my trumpet teacher at Birmingham Conservatoire. And at the time, he was playing in the CBSO. So I went down to London and had a trumpet lesson with him, sat in on his CBSO rehearsal, sort of spent the day going around Birmingham and the conservatoire with him and meeting other members of the team and sort of having a proper look around the
Mm.
building rather than it just sort of being an open day. And that's what completely like swayed my thinking of actually, I said to myself, as soon as I get my offer from Birmingham, I'll take it. Um, which and I'd been offered a scholarship from another conservatoire, and I didn't actually get one from Birmingham, but as soon as I got the offer, I knew I wanted to
Mm.
um, take take them up on that offer, and that was mainly because I thought if the staff here are so sort of welcoming and open to literally let you spend the whole day with them and have multiple lessons and sort of really get to know them and show them around, not just we didn't just sort of look around the building, but we looked around the city, and I sat in a CBSO rehearsal, which was a really big deal for me. So yeah, I thought, if this is what the culture's like at RBC, then you know that's
Mm.
definitely a selling point for me, and that's why as soon as I got my offer, I accepted it straight away.
That's amazing. And so you moved away from home and did that. So just like I'd be interested to know about what how you felt the audition process for all of
Hmm.
that level of, when you're entering a sort of conservatoire world, what that feels like and what that was like for you, um, and then what the reality of doing a course like that, what you
Hmm.
felt that the RBC gave you, and other things that you'd like to see as well, in conservatoires, because for the rest of us that haven't gone that journey, it's fascinating to see behind the curtain a little bit.
Hmm. Well, for auditions anyway, a lot, well, some conservatoires like to have a sort of set piece that everyone has to play.
Mm.
Um, and then normally you pick a second piece that is one that you choose yourself, but usually it needs to be significantly shorter than the main piece. And it's very, very rare that you ever are allowed to get to the end of any of your pieces. You know, you have to tell yourself that if they stop me after a minute, it's not because they think I'm bad, it's just because they've heard all they need to hear, sort of thing. And then you get asked sort of the dreaded scales, even though they always ask the same ones. So you could just try and cheat the system and learn the 4 that they're going to ask, because they seem to all only ask the same 4 scales, even though there's ones to learn. And then again, the sort of dreaded sight reading and oral tests. And what was actually quite interesting is that at the Royal Welsh Conservatoire, you had to do sight singing as well. So they sort of gave you a short piece that it was normally a hymn that you had to sing with sort of piano accompaniment from start to finish. So that was quite daunting, sort of having to essentially sort of show yourself on 2 instruments in one audition.
What song did you what piece of music did you pick to play?
For my auditions, I did one piece by Eugene Botzer called Rustiques, which I'd actually not chosen because I particularly liked the composer. I chose it because one of my favourite trumpet players, Wynton Marsalis, had done a recording of it. And, you know, all my sort of trumpet life, he's been a sort of big hero of mine. He was the first, not only was he a black trumpet player, well, not was, is, he was one of the first artists to receive I think it was a Grammy award for a classical album in one year and a jazz album like later on. So he could sort of just play anything perfectly. And so yeah, I played that, and then I also played another piece called Someone to Watch Over Me, which again is sort of a huge sort of black influence and has a lot of history behind it. But that was always a nice piece for me to end on in an audition, because it showed like a different side of my playing, and it was sort of something I could relax into, because sort of technicalities of it were fairly simple. It was more about the expression and that sort of thing.